So we have a really unique property in Wisconsin. We just sold it a month or so ago. Thank you. So Christine you've helped us sell and buy 3 different homes. So selling and trading, maybe 4 altogether now, but it's been a lot of transactions. And so we had that property in Wisconsin. It was 3 buildings, old beautiful Catholic church building and a school building, and then our home, the big rectory. And then we also wanted to find a place out west here in the valley. So we found a place in Draper, but I couldn't afford to buy the home in Draper, but they needed to sell it that month. And you came up with this lease option. And so wasn't that what it was called? A lease option? So we put this lease option together for exactly what they wanted. I mean, it was what they wanted. And then we had a 3-year to purchase it within that 3 years. And so the 3rd year rolled around, and I had been wanting to close our business in Wisconsin and then close what we were doing in Draper. So I didn't want the building anymore. And I'm going, but it's worth a lot more, and we've put a lot of money into it in renovation. We probably put $60,000 or $70,000, and then we were paying $3,600 lease payment every single month for 3 years. They'd made pretty good money. And so I asked a friend, I was like, well, I don't have enough money, but I have really wealthy friends. So I'm like, sir, would you like to lend me $400,000? I'll pay you interest, And I found a taker who's just as nuts, And so a good friend of ours through business, and so we actually borrowed the money and we bought the home, and then we flipped it. We sold it right away and made. How much did we make? Like $100,000.
Yeah, your spread. So just rough numbers. So we were about $300,000 to $400,000. On her purchase and her resale, but then there was the money she put into it, and there's appreciation. The market had gone up in price since then, but bottom line on the paper, it was about $100,000 spread from start to finish.
And then we had to pay my lender back, and we gave him 10% interest plus a $9,800. What did he call it? Some kind of fee.
So there are points that are paid on money, and usually it's 1 or 2% of what you're borrowing. So he charged her, I believe, 2 points.
Okay.
And then the rest was interest for the term.
So he made very good, decent money. Oh my goodness. And then we made money on it, enough to take that money. And then we put it down on a home we really did want in the middle of nowhere, down in southern Utah. And so we took that money and then we went to southern Utah. So we had a lot going on at one time. We were selling the homes in Wisconsin, which is altogether a very unique experience because one was commercial, one was residential, but they're on the same property.
Right.
So that was a headache you can explain because those words I don't know.
Right.
Anyhow, I can talk about your endoplasmic reticulum, but don't ask me about real estate. Anyhow, so when we found the home down out in southern Utah, but I didn't sell my home in Wisconsin. And so I couldn't purchase another home for $480,000 because I already owned all this property in Wisconsin, and I just had our income, which wasn't enough to fund all of those properties. And so we then approached him. I'm like, well, the lease worked for us up here. So I offered them, I said, what if we give you, we gave them $70,000 down payment, and then we leased it from them for 3 months until we could purchase it. And when the lease was done, because they needed to purchase their property, so they needed to end the lease, I went back to my friend again. I'm like, hey, you want to lend me another $450,000? But can we please skip that whole point thing? Can I just give you interest? Yeah. And they had made enough money that he didn't charge me the points, and he charged less interest rate. It was still considerable. He was probably getting over $3,600 a month.
It's still more than a bank would have charged. But the nice thing is there weren't any closing costs like you guys would consider. If you go and get a loan, you're going to pay about 2.5-3% of the purchase price just in expenses, just in closing costs. And so points to a private lender are kind of the same thing. It's like their closing costs. They gather it up front so they know for sure I at least made this much. And then there's interest after. So what you heard is when she went back to him, they had relationship. So remember that when you are dealing with private lenders, hard money lenders, the better relationship you have with them, the more deals they might cut you. So
yeah, absolutely.
She did get that.
And I sent him after the first deal, I went and got this $90 bouquet of stuff, like trees and plants and whatever. And I showed up at their doorstep. I'm like, thank you very much, So it was pretty easy to get the second loan, even though it was more money, but we had kept in relations that whole time. So then we closed out the lease, and then we paid him with that money. And how I looked at it was still almost, it was more than a mortgage payment, but not terribly much. So, and my business was there. So I had a real good justification that I wasn't being screwed. I was so thankful for it. And we had put so much money into the property. The issue that we had was Wisconsin, and you can talk more about the details on that, but that was a harder thing to sell because we had commercial and we had our home real estate, and their circumstance, the buyers they were going to close in October, which would have been very easy. Then it would all have gone really smoothly, but because they couldn't, and I had this relationship with them, I still love them. I really wish I wouldn't have had that relationship. I would have saved myself like $30,000. But because I loved them and I wanted them to have our property, I really did. We waited. And we waited for months and months and months. And every month we had to wait, I had to pay our lender another $3,600 or whatever it was a month in that interest. And so that was steep, but I didn't mind. I just kept thinking, well, we're still coming out ahead. We're still coming out ahead. And I'm selling my property to someone who's going to love our property. We didn't make a lot of money, maybe 130, which then paid off I think we sold it for 270 together. 270, that whole property, which was valued way over that. But again, it needed tuck pointing. And I knew that I have this phrase, equal exchange. I'm totally into equal exchange. So there has to be equal exchange. I knew that he was getting property that needed a lot of work. The insurance company knew that. And I knew I gave him my business that was associated with the property. I didn't even charge him for the wedding garden.
Which was a very nice bonus.
It was huge, because he started making money the same month the same month we closed. He started getting checks in the mail for a lot of money. So we gave him the business. I know he would need that to support the property, and it's a special property to our family. The great part about that is we still came out ahead in that even after paying everything off and paying off, our lender again, we still had probably $60,000 that because of having so much debt, then it looked so much debt, our bank actually took all the money. I got $251, but that's okay. I loved it. I bought rocks, for my rose garden. I took all my roses back out of my gardens from Wisconsin. I brought a whole truck of plants, like a monster truck of my gardens out of Wisconsin, and I brought them here. Anyhow, but they took that $60,000 and then just paid off my husband's student loan and blank. So it really was very, very helpful. So I take this, it was totally stressful. I never want your job. Don't ask me to help ever with real estate.
And there's a person who never wants to be a real estate investor because of the stress. So
it was. However, we came out of that, my husband and I, and we're like, we want to be in the position to lend the money.
See?
I want to do what my lender did.
And that's what I love is that in real estate, you can find a place.